Petchmorakot is a multiple stadium champion who's defeated such greats as Senchai and Petrosian. Currently the Muay Thai featherweight champion at 1, Petchmorakot's style feels like a throwback to the golden age of Muay Thai. A dangerous knee and elbow fighter, Petchmorakot still has the playful feel of a Muay Thai fighter. But like boxing's power-punching legend Max Baer, he can go from goofy to deadly serious in an instant. This makes for a very unpredictable style and incredibly entertaining fights. So let's take a look at exactly what makes Kakarot, Petchmorakot, a great champion. Petchmorakot has one of the most beautiful and dangerous roundhouse kicks I've ever seen. He commits all of his body weight to the movement, pivoting on his toes to fully follow through. Throwing with bad intentions like this has a lot of benefits. From knocking opponents off balance, to discouraging inside slips and ducks, to herding opponents into corners. But there's another piece of the puzzle that really makes Pet's roundhouse a complete game changer. Before we get to that, it's important to note that such a committed and telegraphed move can be easily timed and countered. Petchmorakot has a number of ways to defend against these, from rechambering, to quickly checking, from turning the reaction of his roundhouse into a quick push kick. But regardless, taking some damage is worth it, because of just how well Petchmorakot's roundhouse pairs with his teeth. This comes down to one concept that is absolutely critical for fighters to understand: pairing two attacks that require opposite defenses together. It doesn't matter if you dodge an iron bar, only to duck into a baseball bat. Both get the job done, and that holds true for Petchmorakot's paired roundhouse and teep. Mainly throwing his roundhouse kick to the head and teeps to the stomach creates an even wider disparity in the competitor's defenses. Timing is a big factor here too. Petchmorakot throws his roundhouse kicks wide and long, while his teeps are short and tight. He loads his teep with an inverted foot and saves the hip turn for the last possible moment, resulting in his foot reaching the target as quickly as possible. George Foreman has spoken a lot on varying wide and tight shots so that opponents get confused and block too early or too late. And whether Petchmorakot has given any conscious thought to this principle or not, the tactic is definitely paying off for him. But we're not here for punches and kicks. We want to look at knees and elbows. Relax, I got the good stuff. Petchmorakot fights from southpaw, meaning he has the opposite foot forward against most of his competitors. If you don't know how much this changes the dynamics of a fight, the answer is a lot. Long story short, an open stance makes Pet's rear side attacks, like knees, easier to land, while his lead side attacks are now more likely to get jammed up. But this works out well for him, because Petchmorakot likes to parry or trap the lead hand as a first step to establishing ties and holds. This lead hand trap pairs and chains very well with jabs. Petchmorakot has a really sharp jab, and he'll often double or triple up, varying going around or splitting his opponent's guard. Sometimes the mere threat of a trap will get opponents to clear their own guard, and Petchmorakot has enough snap to do some damage even when his arm is already pretty extended. Both the jab and trap can be used to set up roundhouse kicks, crosses, elbows, or knees, which we'll get to in just a moment. First, here's a cool knockout variation, where Petchmorakot instead clears his opponent's rear hand to clear space for an elbow. But the real goal with trapping here is to establish a kind of grappling bridgehead, from which he could branch out to other fronts. Once the opponent's lead hand threats can be neutralized and used as a control point, Petchmorakot will then put his rear hand to good use. Either through cross-framing, or to simply clear away the rear side guard altogether. Both of these methods are then used to set up devastating knees. It's kind of funny how Petchmorakot's knees really don't look like much to the uninitiated, until you see their results. And I promise you, even the shots that don't land on the liver are incredibly damaging. Yes, his knees are short and tight, but that's exactly what makes them so dangerous. Knees are big and strong, ribs are small and delicate, so it really doesn't take too much to change the course of a fight. I've saved my favorite topic for last. Petchmorakot pretty much exemplifies the term aggressive defense. Every defensive tool he has also sets up some kind of shot and chains together with the rest of his style in a really aesthetic and effective way. Long guard tactics like frames and straight arm blocks, known as leverage blocks, provide the first line of defense. Notice how Petchmorakot matches his opponent's rhythm to cut off and dispel the force of their punches. Using head movement as a second line of defense, and mixing in strikes and grappling. Petchmorakot can charge forward to close distance while still remaining safe. What can look like lucky flailing is actually great rhythmic defense, paired with the situational awareness of where to place his head. And best of all, this is very tiring for competitors. The feeling is akin to punching quicksand. Petchmorakot also mixes in cover blocks, and he'll sometimes turn these into sneaky elbows, because why not? The last bit of aggressive defense I'd like to cover is reactive ties. This is a concept I think needs to be given a lot more attention, since every time an opponent punches, it creates openings and can break their posture depending on where they move their head. Petchmorakot will evade and then return a tie the same way a boxer will return a punch. Reactive takedowns have been common parlance for a while now, and I'd like to get people noticing and looking for reactive ties so that it's easier to understand and to implement. Petchmorakot has a lot of great grappling setups, and if you'd like to learn more of those clinching tricks, I would check out my breakdowns on Dieselnoy, the sky-piercing knee, and Yod Kampan, the elbow hunter of 100 stitches. So now is a great time to start following Petchmorakot, because he's set to fight someone with a completely contrasting style. Tawanchai is an elusive fighter who loves to counter and catch opponents while backpedaling. But when he does initiate, he makes it count. His sense of distance and timing have proven too much for many competitors. How Petchmorakot's wide roundhouse kick holds up against Tawanchai's long sideways teeth, and how Tawanchai attempts to deal with Petchmorakot's ability to smother and close the distance are two elements I'm really looking forward to seeing in particular. You can watch that fight on September 29th, and I've left a link to purchase the fight below. From the Modern Martial Artist, this has been David Christian, wishing you happy training.